The stories contained in this podcast are the recollections of the guests we've invited onto the show. We are an outlet for people to share their truths, and we accept no legal responsibilities for the stories contained herein.
I'm Kendra Sheets.
And I'm Rich Gill.
And this is Enough, a podcast that aims to shine light into the darkened corners of the music industry while discussing the ways we can and should improve ourselves and, in turn, our community. Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Subtext, our information-driven subset of the podcast. Today, we are continuing our streak of talking about famous artists who have been accused or convicted of abuse, assault, or rape by giving you a very brief rundown of the sordid history of R&B artist Chris Brown. There's a lot to go over, so to save everyone some time, we're just going to highlight a few of the more noteworthy allegations against him.
First of all, you may be asking yourself, why Chris Brown? He hasn't been in the news lately in the same way that Diddy, Kanye, Harvey Weinstein, or Aaron Carter have been, so why bring him up now? The reason is twofold. They stem from a couple news items that have come out over the last few weeks. On June 12th, he made the gossip rags for getting stuck while suspended in the air mid-song during a concert in New Jersey. He was quickly rescued by stagehands, and after having some choice words with them, carried on with the show, and it just kind of became one of those funny online moments of random things that can happen at a concert. More recently, on June 25th, he went viral when video of his bulge, as the tabloids so eloquently put it, after being twerked on by a dancer at one of his concerts, made its way to the internet. Fans obviously flocked to social media to comment and compliment Brown. So what all this does is prove the point that people are very quick to forget that Chris Brown is actually a convicted domestic abuser with multiple accusations against him outside of what he was convicted of. Yes, people can change. Yes, people make mistakes. But this is neither of those. Chris Brown isn't one of those people. This is someone with a decade-plus pattern of abuse, assault, and harassing behavior. So if you're one of those people who forgot about all that, let's take a moment and get you up to speed.
So the incident that the majority of us remember Chris Brown the most for is when he violently assaulted fellow singer and at the time girlfriend Rihanna, and that was back in February of 2009. To be honest, that's when he kind of came on my radar. Obviously, Rich and I have talked about the world of music that we live in. So R&B is not normally my thing, and top 40s radio is not it either. And 2009, I was, I think, in college, so being a dork somewhere in a library. So that's how this whole thing came to light for me. The police report states Rihanna, quote, turned to face Brown and he punched her in the left eye with his right hand. He then drove away in the vehicle and continued to punch her in the face with his right hand while steering the vehicle with his left hand. The assault caused Robin F's mouth to fill with blood and blood to splatter all over her clothing and the interior of the vehicle. Brown looked at Robin F. and stated, I'm going to beat the shit out of you when we get home. You wait and see. End quote. If you don't remember this incident, or if you just want to know more, Google the photo taken of her after the assault. No shade, but she looks like a bloated corpse. It's really bad. It's what I remember from all of this too, was the photo was the thing that recalling all of this sticks in my mind.
It's horrific. It's truly horrific and shocking to see someone looking like that at the hands of their partner at the time, which happens all too often. And I think this incident really brought that to light, that if it can happen to Rihanna, one of the biggest stars in the world, think of how many other people this is happening to behind closed doors.
And also, again, remember this is 2009. So Rihanna's still she's got a lot going on now with her makeup line and her clothing, her lingerie line. 2009, she was musically at the height of her career. She had 9 singles out at the exact same time that were all number one for some odd reason. This was literally when she was in the news all the time. And this was going on.
So in June of that year, 2009, Brown pleaded guilty to felony assault and because of a plea deal, got a reduced sentence. He was ordered to attend 1 year of domestic violence counseling and undergo 6 months of community service, as well as the judge issuing a 5-year restraining order keeping him 50 yards or 10 yards at public events away from Rihanna. 10 yards at public events because God forbid he miss an award show or industry party because of something like beating the fuck out of his girlfriend.
So 2 years after that, 2011, he was on Good Morning America being interviewed by Robin Roberts about his new album. Over the course of this interview, Roberts asked him multiple times about the Rihanna incident. Brown noticeably became agitated and at one point said, "It's not really a big deal to me now as far as that situation. I think I'm past that in my life." Which we could dissect and give like an hour or two of our time. He's past that. That's really fucking cute. Like, is her face okay? Did she need reconstructive surgery? Like, is she going to be emotionally okay? But no, it's cool that he's past that in his life. I'm sure that's like not that big of a deal. And he's been able to put it like, you know, in the rear view mirror. Nice for him. But anyway, I digress. That interview segment ended. And after performing a couple of songs, Chris Brown stormed off the set and he went into his dressing room where there were like a shit ton of loud noises, which prompted the hair and makeup staff to call the police. Think about what that would sound like to the point where there's not even security that's intervening. They're straight up just calling the cops. So Brown then emerged from the dressing room, shirtless, and left the building with his team. It was then discovered that a window in the dressing room had been completely smashed and glass was strewn all over the street below the dressing room. Because that's just totally normal fucking behavior, just wrecking the shit out of your dressing room and just ruining someone else's stuff. That seems like a controlled person who definitely has this behind them in their life, right?
Sounds like that anger management stuff really worked wonders.
Yeah.
So over the next couple years after this, there were some more altercations with women, usually at nightclubs, hotels, and his tour bus that resulted in some injuries and multiple instances of him taking people's phones for some reason who are taking pictures of him. A quick Google search will bring this up if you're interested, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on the multitude of interactions and altercations that happened during this time.
Again, there are a lot, and this would be a very long episode if we covered everything that's been reported on. We're just hitting the highlights here.
So on that note of hitting the highlights, we're going to skip ahead to 2016 when Nancy Nash, I believe is how it's pronounced, Brown's tour manager at the time, quit mid-tour after being threatened with a physical attack. Nash claims that during a drug-fueled outburst, Brown cursed her out over the terms of her employment, causing her to leave the tour bus and quit the tour altogether. Afterward, she emailed the entire tour party to explain what happened, and in that email said she felt unsafe because Brown was, quote, irrational and high on drugs, end quote. During their altercation, Brown also alluded to an incident with a former manager, Mike G., and threatened to do to Nash what he did to him.
So, who's Mike G., and what was it that Brown did to him that made Nash want to leave the tour? Mike G. was a manager who was hired back in 2012 to help repair Chris Brown's image after the Rihanna incident. Interestingly enough, G alleges that in May of that year, Brown assaulted him, locked him in a room, and punched him multiple times in the face and in the neck. G sued Brown because of this, and in the suit, he also alleged that Brown bragged on social media about beating him up and told other people on the tour that he would beat them up just like he beat up Mike G. if they got out of line, which seems to give some credence to Nancy's claims after all.
Now, it is worth noting that Brown countered Mike G's claims, saying that G was upset he was fired after Brown found out that he was stealing from him, and that's why he filed suit. A little bit of Darvo going on there, but, we'll just ignore that and move on. In 2019, the lawsuit was settled out of court with both Brown and Mike G saying they had reconciled their differences and reached a confidential deal.
It's always interesting how things can be reconciled with there's a dollar sign in front of your calming decision-making process. It always is confidential. I feel like if it says confidential, it's a confidential deal. You're like, oh, so it's at least 6 figures. Cool. Easy 6-figure confidential deal.
That'll buy a lot of people's silence from speaking out.
Yeah, for sure. So the last person on our list that we're going to mention in this episode is another one of Chris Brown's exes, Karrueche Tran. In 2017, Tran was granted a 5-year restraining order against Brown after sharing text messages and voicemails of Brown threatening her, and testified that at one point he had threatened to, quote, beat the living shit out of her. Does that sound familiar? Does it kind of almost sound exactly like the same thing that he said to Rihanna back in 2009? And in addition to threatening to beat the shit out of her, he demanded that she should return diamond rings and other gifts that he had given to her. Tran also noted that he had physically assaulted her in the past, which had resulted in a previous temporary restraining order.
Throughout all of this, all of these allegations and accusations and admissions of guilt and plea deals, all of it, Brown has had many supporters. Some of them are very famous. Some of them are just regular people. In some cases, some of the famous people are problematic themselves. Kanye West voiced his support for Brown at a taping of VH1 Storytellers shortly after the Rihanna beating, saying, quote, can't we give Chris a break? I know I make mistakes in life, end quote. These comments were cut from the televised broadcast. In 2022, Kelly Rowland defended Brown after being met with boos when accepting an award on his behalf at the American Music Awards. The Destiny's Child member told TMZ, quote, we all need to be forgiven for anything that we could be doing. We all come up short in some sort of way. Grace is real and we are humans, and everybody deserves grace, period, end quote. Justin Bieber, 50 Cent, The Game, Taraji P. Henson, Lil Mama, Sierra. The list goes on and on and on and on.
And maybe I would give a little bit of grace if it was just that one time, just a drug-fueled rage, even though we talk about how drug-fueled or substance abuse rages have absolutely no, that's not a reason why it's okay. But this isn't a one and done. That's what we've been talking about here. A little bit of grace for repetitive, unchanged behavior over the course of 10 years. No, I'm good. Thank you. No grace given.
And also, let's not forget that one of the conditions of his plea deal was domestic violence counseling, and he continued to domestic violence people afterwards. Doesn't seem like that really worked out again.
No, not at all. And then there's the case of former Enough subject Lizzo and her DJ Sophia Aris, who faced significant online backlash after meeting Brown at the Oakland stop on his tour back in 2021. In a video posted online, Lizzo and Aris can be seen very excitedly asking to get their picture taken with Chris Brown, and Lizzo saying, "Can I get a picture with you because you're my favorite person in the whole fucking world?" Lizzo, you'll remember, is facing her own sexual harassment suit, which we covered back in episode 47, and is being represented by Hollywood power attorney Marty Singer. Who else has Singer represented? Bill Cosby, Johnny Depp, Charlie Sheen, and yep, you guessed it, Chris motherfucking Brown, y'all. Yup. For Aris's part, she was a member of a team of people who crowdfunded over $68,000 back in 2020 to open a venue in Minneapolis. As of this airing, the venue has not opened, and despite multiple inquiries by people who contributed to the GoFundMe, there has been no disclosure by Aris or anyone else involved as to what happened to all of that money.
The big question here with all of this is, why do people, famous or not, seemingly forget or willfully ignore the chronic abuse perpetrated by artists with any modicum of talent? Chris Brown is not going to be remembered through time as one of the all-time greats. It's not like he invented a new genre of music like Little Richard did. He didn't write timeless songs that will be sung and enjoyed and placed prominently in movies for generations to come like Elton John. He isn't an icon to women and the LGBTQIA plus community, who also wrote timeless songs that will be sung and enjoyed and placed prominently in movies for generations to come, like Dolly Parton. Fuck it. I'll even throw out another problematic artist who he's been compared to. He's not Michael fucking Jackson, who literally changed the music industry and has gone down in history as one of the most influential artists of all time. He's none of that. Much like another problematic person that we talk about, Drake, Chris Brown is just another marginally talented artist who is popular in this period of time. If he were to disappear tomorrow and not write another song or play another concert and just got a fucking job at Target or Chipotle, it wouldn't matter one bit in the grand scheme of the entertainment world. Ultimately, he's just another shitty dude with shitty fans who can't seem to accept the fact that despite him being ever so marginally talented, maybe he doesn't need to be platformed in this way anymore. Or maybe he doesn't need to be platformed at all. Maybe he should just go away.
Enough is a podcast centering on surviving abuse, harassment, and assault in the music scene. To help get the word out, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. If you have been on the receiving end of harm from someone, be it artist, venue owner, booking agent, audience member, or someone else, and would like to share your story on a future episode, please reach out to us at thisisenoughpodcast@gmail.com. All correspondences are kept confidential.